Ooh la la la. You know, it's Friday. And it looks like we're getting a ceasefire in the Middle East. Some people call that peace. I call that a ceasefire. I hear there's going to be the hostages being returned on or before Sunday.
Monday, Tuesday now.
Now it's Monday,
Tuesday.
Yeah. They require 10 days to find all the dead bodies of all the murdered people. And, you know, I'm looking on the streets of New York on some cameras, and I don't see the rioters, the paid rioters that are out there, the paid protesters. You know, I guess we ended BLM. I guess we ended climate change. I guess we ended, gay rights. I guess we ended, what else we end? We ended Free Palestine. I mean, there's not much left for the protesters to protest. Conversely, you don't see them celebrating either in the streets. These are things that are very interesting. You almost hear the sound of crickets in the fields. There's so much silence, it's beyond deafening. Where are all of the haters? You know, this is far from over, David. I don't believe this is the end of this situation. I think that the vitriol hatred runs deep. I've sent you a video about a woman who was saved from burns on her body, then was saved of being attacked, and then she was told that she's going to go martyr herself in the hospital that saved her life not once but twice. You know, when you have a people that teach hate, there's no reprieve. There's no end in sight. Anyways, I'm sorry for the extended entrance, but it's Friday. No rules apply. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast called The Rant Network. It's a go-to, unfiltered, unapologetic discussion hosted by David Solomon today and myself, Stuart Brisgell. We tackle a diverse range of topics in the conversation, bold opinions, whether we're breaking down the latest headlines, exploring pop culture, debating politics, or delving into complexities of modern life. This is a platform for all these perspectives and discussions. We give an opinion, so grab a seat, settle in, and join us on this thought-provoking journey. But, you know, in this process, I hear deafening crickets. You mentioned in the green room that the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to a woman who's been fighting for peace in Venezuela. How many wars did Donald J. Trump settle in the last 60 days, 90 days?
7 or 8. 7 or 8.
How many tens of hundreds of thousands of people do you think were saved?
Oh, I think it's already in the it's going to be in the millions, but yeah.
Yeah. And the Nobel Prize is awarded to someone from another communist regime that is fighting for freedom. You know, as we, the American people, are bombing the shit out of these drug cartel boats that are going across the water, this is where they give the Nobel Prize. I mean, David, they can't hate more than what they already do. I just can't fathom it. I can't fathom the lack of celebration. I mean, I understand we're not celebrating yet because the hostages aren't free. I know we're not celebrating yet because we still have a wonderful head of the snake called Iran that hasn't been dealt with. And I know we're not celebrating because the bodies of those that were massacred and murdered in cold, venomous blood have not been returned to their loved ones. We're the only people on the planet that value the body of a loved one as much as we do the life of a living one. It's amazing. Yet we are the barbarians. Yet we are the invaders. Yet we are the ones that bring fruits and vegetables to a desert. It's we that have a country that's the only one in the world with a diminishing desert, not an increasing desert. It's we that have a country that represents the second most amount of inventions in the planet. It is we that represent every single piece of technology that I'm using today to telegraph, communicate, and discuss with you. Yet we are the ones being massacred. We are the ones that are being persecuted. But the point of this rant isn't about how we're being persecuted. The purpose of this rant is, where are all the parades in the street? David?
Well, you said parades. I would call them like hate fests. But reality, folks, is what Stuart was saying. And this is something we talked about at great length. And since Tuesday night, if you didn't hear, if you're under a rock, Hamas came to its senses and said, okay, enough is enough. We're going to finally return the hostages. And what was interestingly noted, Stuart, is in past peace attempts or ceasefire attempts, it had to be Israel who had to go first. And Israel had to be the one to comply. And if the Arabs didn't think, or the Palestinians didn't think it was 105% done, they would just screw around and then blow it up and blame Israel. And as the rest of the world has done for time and time again, Israel's blamed for everything, which includes the lack of peace in the Middle East. Israel did not attack on October the 7th, 2023, nor did she retaliate on October 8th, 2023. But since October 8th, there have been screams for ceasefire. Stuart, like protests in streets, protests in campuses. Israel hadn't even fired a shot yet. But Israel was already being lambasted the day after 1,200 were murdered in cold blood. 1,200 people were just taken out, innocent people, men, women, children, Holocaust survivors. It didn't make a difference. And I'm bringing that up again because it's interesting how Israel, who you said is wanting there were 250 plus hostages taken, 48 remain, 20 are assumed alive. Physically, yes. Psychologically, the PTSD that they're going to suffer and the amount of torture they've endured. Israelis celebrated on Tuesday night the notion that all 48 will come home. We're hoping that that's going to happen. Israel is not stupid to know that the trust with Hamas, you can't trust terrorists. So this is being brought in very cautiously. Yet Israelis in the middle of the night, Stuart, were calling each other to come into Hostage Square in Tel Aviv to celebrate the potential end to this phase of this horrifying conflict. And I'm asking myself, where are the politicians around the world who only a scant few weeks ago proudly stood at the United Nations declaring an independent Palestinian state? What did that get them? More damage, more death, more destruction. That's what that got them. What did Donald Trump do? He laid down the arm after Israel attacked Hamas's leaders in Qatar, triggered a domino effect that led us to this week, where all of a sudden Egypt, Turkey, Qatar, of all people, are at the table making sure Hamas is there and actually goes first to return the hostages. Nothing to happen. Now there's a ceasefire. Right now there is relative quiet. But what Israel was doing was saying, we are not going to do our part until we return all of our men, women, and children. That's incredible. And that'll happen next week, and the celebrations will be deafening. But it's interesting, Stuart, because when I went to teach on, at McGill this week, first of all, Concordia University. I'll give you two examples. Concordia University, just to show you what was this week, October the 7th, was all about celebrating the Great Revolution. According to these haters, it was all about a rebellion. This was the day of celebration. Could you imagine 9/11? We talked about this on Monday. Imagine 9/11 having a holiday in countries. You'd be sick. Could you imagine Americans going out in the street parading with Al-Qaeda flags and Taliban flags, saying, "Yay, down to America! We're going to take on America on 9/11." You'd be ill. Well, that's what these guys did. And I'll give you an example. In Concordia University, two parents were allegedly walking around, one with a metal bar and one with incendiary devices. Well, how is that going to help Palestinians to burn down or burn part of it? They ripped property like you couldn't imagine. Same thing in McGill. There was damage caused. Stuart, I was teaching and this damage was being caused, and I'm sitting there and going, I don't get it. How does this help the Palestinians? It doesn't. And instead of condemning the actions, quiet. The people you listen.
No, it's not quiet. Iran is
No,
threatening now.
no.
Iran is starting to
I-
threaten again.
So look, Iran on one hand said we're applauding this because that's what they've been calling for. And we know there's a hypocrisy, and I don't give a crap about Iran. AOC, Rashida Tlaib,
Oh,
Ilhan Omar.
come on.
Where? Hold on.
Come on.
Where are
Rashida
you?
Taliban.
I know where
Rashida
you are.
Taliban, come
I
on,
know
man.
where you are. You're in your little home bunkers, saddened today that you didn't get what you wanted.
Do you want a box of
Destruction Israel.
Kleenex?
Okay, I'll send something else. Instead, John Fetterman comes out and applauds Donald Trump. I didn't hear the Democratic Party. I didn't hear Chuck Schumer. I didn't hear anything. You're only caring about the government shutdown, which, yeah, whatever you guys continue to do because you need that kind of publicity. But a high five to Donald Trump, who did something that no previous president in 77 years of the rebirth of Israel has been able to accomplish. It's incredible. Politicians around the world, quiet. But instead, the protests have continued. The doubling down on protests on destroying Israel. This is the problem, Stuart, is that the war won't end because the people who are in the streets, who are in positions of power, don't want it to end. They want the destruction. They want to see Israel erased off the map. This pisses them off that Donald Trump screwed up with their plans, which includes little fucking Carney, which includes Keir Starmer, which includes all of Macron, who've all said, no, we're okay with Israel. No, you're not. You're clearly not. And now that Donald Trump has done this, it's incredible. Yes, Donald Trump said the world came together. Great words. He says this will be the first time in 3,000 years that there's quiet in the Middle East. No, there isn't. It's not going to happen that way. But I want to tell you, Stuart, the absolute, what should be a step in the right direction is being vilified. The left hates this. Where are the gays for Palestine? Where are you to celebrate? Nope. Where's the Black Lives Matter people who have also who proudly put, if you recall, on October the 7th, they had the parachutes in the gliders. They posted it on their website. Where are you today to say, yay, we're going to have peace in the Middle East? Palestinians are heading towards potentially their own state. All of you are conspicuously absent because you're now disappointed that you didn't get what you wanted. Israel needs to survive. Stuart listed a whole bunch of technologies, ideas, and this and that. Israel needs to survive. One Jewish state in a world filled with Christian countries, Muslim countries, Hindu and Buddhist countries, one Jewish state. She has a right to exist. And her rebirth 77 years ago wasn't, only because of the Holocaust. It's because Jews deserved a homeland. And no, it's not called New York. And it's interesting, Stuart, because speaking of New York, Zohar Mamdani also, all he wants is the intifada. All he wants is a global intifada. He wants to see destruction. He is disappointed. That little rich bitch is really, today is so disappointed because Donald Trump screwed them all. And Stuart, I want to tell you, I'm looking forward to seeing next week the hostages come home. I'm scared for them, Stuart, because they're going to come home emaciated. Like I said, mentally, God knows what kind of mental, status they're in. But they're going to be home, and families will have a chance for closure. And if you have any ounce of humanity in you, people, and all those people out there who might be watching us on social media, let me give you this message. If you can't be happy Monday, Tuesday when these hostages are home, then you need to go for therapy. You need to go see a psychiatrist and a psychologist or a social worker to ask you the really fundamental questions. Are you truly fucked up that you can't be happy for families to be reunited after over 735 days? If that doesn't put something warm into your heart, you're a cold piece of shit, and you deserve whatever comes your way.
Well, I guess I can't say, David, tell me how you really feel, but I can't argue with you either on that. All right, everybody, that brings this podcast to a close on this Friday, 10/10/25. I hope you truly enjoyed this episode. We truly appreciate you tuning in and sharing your time. Please don't forget to share, forward, and tell your friends about another thought-provoking, honest conversation. Don't forget, we're every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern, except when we can't. Anyways, guys, check us out on social media. Check us out on the website. Love to hear more discussions, comments,